Welcome to Senior Break. I'm Dawn Medici with Oxford Township Parks and Recreation.
And I'm Marie May from Addison Township Senior Center. And today our special guest is Ken DeTone, and he is a senior exercise trainer. Welcome, Ken.
Yes, welcome.
And we have questions
yes,
for you
we
today.
we do.
But first, can you give us a little background about how you got into this and what you do?
Sure. Firstly, thank you for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to be here. I was a retired contractor in 2016, and I decided I needed to do something going into my retirement years, and I just didn't want to sit around and think about what I needed to do. So I got certified to be a senior exercise trainer and went through the couple of classes. And prior to going out on my own, I worked for a company, and we worked in a number of senior centers as well as nursing homes.
Okay.
And I did some training and teaching in those facilities down in Rochester for a couple of years, and then I decided to go through the St. Joseph's program, which was here in Oxford, and ended up, unfortunately, that program
kind of dissolved
due to COVID. So I ended up just meeting Marie, and now I'm teaching a couple of classes up there a week over the last couple of years, right? It's kind of worked out.
A couple of years.
And decided that's what I kind of wanted to do. So that's where I'm doing it. And
good.
Very happy to work up at the senior center and met a lot of people. We had our little banquet this past month.
We did.
Got together with everybody in the class and talked about what we're going to do this fall.
Oh, that's nice.
Do you specialize in any particular exercise?
So my mantra or my focus is on three things: stretching, a cardio workup to get the blood moving. And the most important thing I do is make everybody have fun. Don't make it be a drudgery, you're going to be unhappy afterward. You want to make it fun, and the way we do that is we kind of have all different kind of music to get everybody's
That's nice.
energy level up. So we do a stretching cardio workup. That's for about 20 minutes. Then the second half is weights, free weights, and core, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And then I think that the most important part, given that we're working with seniors, is balance.
Right.
Balance has become so important as we get older that we talked about that a little bit before I went on about the people who fall. And I'm so worried about that with the people that are in my classes, because when I asked every one of them had fallen.
Yes.
Either they tripped on a carpet, some of them more seriously fell down a flight of stairs, and that really turned the light on in my brain to say we really need to focus on these balance exercises. So that's basically my class.
Okay.
And we go for about an hour.
I was going to say, how long is the class?
We do
typically?
20, 20, and 20.
Okay.
But I like to do a cool down at the end.
All right.
And typically what I'll do for those last 5 minutes is kind of a meditation. And we'll sit in the chair and play some spiritual music to get our heart rate down and get us focused back to where we came in from.
Okay.
How important is stretching? Do you do that before you exercise?
Yeah, you don't want to pull any muscles before you do any weights. You want to have those muscles in the leg, hips especially, shoulders loose, so that when you take, even if it's a little 2-pound weight or it's a little water bottle, you just don't want to pull anything, damage any muscle. You want to have those tendons and muscles limber.
Right. Okay.
That's very, very important. That's why I do it that way. Well, if you can mix it around, certainly you could start off with balance, but that balance is at the end.
So you're talking about the little handheld weights.
We recommend that for seniors, we use a 2-pound or a 3-pound weight. Some of the men, I use an 8-pound weight when I'm doing my classes. That's just what I like. Sometimes I use a 5, but nothing more than a 2 or 3-pound weight. And if you don't have a weight, it's okay. Just use your hands. I do have drumsticks that I bring in. People can use a drumstick and just simulate that movement of the arms. And
like what you're doing now. Would that be considered an exercise?
Yeah, sure. It's resistance training. You want, and again, you want to keep our muscles toned.
How long do they have to do that before they start exercising? How long do you have to
Well,
get
first,
ready.
actually, the first thing that we do in the class, and that room that we have, we walk around the room 5 times
Oh, okay.
to some pretty loud music to get everybody's heartbeat
Yeah.
up. It's kind of like going on a treadmill.
Sure.
But I don't
Okay.
have treadmill, so people walk around that building,
Okay.
around that room, about 5 or 6 times, and you get your heartbeat up. We come back, and then I go into the music routine
Okay.
where we do our stretching.
Okay.
And stretching can be without the weights. We're usually standing.
I was going to say, are you standing? Are you on the floor, in a chair?
Again, like we said, we don't do anything on the floor. We're always,
Okay.
we have the chairs, and we do standing.
Sure.
And then we use the chairs in conjunction with anything that you feel that you can't do in the balance portion where you're freestanding and doing the balance. Because some of the people in the class aren't able to do that.
That's a big question for seniors because on the classes, the other classes we have, they'll call and say, are they on the floor today?
Right.
Because they're worried that they can't get up.
Right.
So that's good to know that you don't do anything on the floor.
Some of the things that I have done in the class, the only thing that I've done on the floor, I've actually gone through a session of about 5 minutes, like what to do if you fall.
Oh, that's good.
And how do you roll, get up to your knees and get up? Because sometimes if someone's alone or their husband or wife is not there and you're on the floor and you
Right.
don't have a call chain,
Right.
something could really terrible happen. So I said, look, this is the way you get up to get to your cell phone.
Yeah.
You know, roll to your cell phone.
Right.
And there are ways to do that and there are ways not to do that. So we've done that once and it was very effective.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, I think that's a great
Yeah.
learning, a good
Yeah.
teaching, because you're right. There are people have many falls and
Yeah.
need to know what would be the best way to get themselves back up.
So I always say, I ask, the first question that I ask is, how many bones do we have in our body? Nobody can answer. So we have 208 bones in our body. But the interesting thing about that number is 52 of those bones are in our feet.
Oh,
We
wow.
have 26 bones in each foot.
Wow.
So, wow, when I learned that, I said, oh, there's all these muscles and tendons that are around our feet. And my thinking is that the feet are the furthest distance from your brain. So if you get a disconnection between your brain and your feet muscles, foot muscles are weak, what's going to happen? We always forget about our ankles when we exercise.
Yes.
And we do a lot of ankle exercises to keep those muscles and tendons in our feet strong. And that, when I asked everybody that, they were like, I didn't know we had 52 bones in our feet. Well, we do. There's little tiny bones in our foot, in our toes, and what have you. So I really want to focus on that connection between our brain and our feet. So that's the end of the third session is it's called kinesthesiology.
Okay.
It's called proprioception. And that is the ability of our muscles to coordinate. So when you close your eyes and you take your index finger to your nose, you're using the proprioception mode of your brain.
Okay.
Or it's also like, for example, if you're on the sand in the beach and your feet, how do you walk on the sand barefooted? Well, it's called proprioception.
Okay.
And they study this at U of M. There's a whole school of kinesthesiology at U of M. So it's an amazing thing that sometimes a lot of the trainers don't really connect, especially because they're teaching younger people.
Yeah.
Well, we want to hear more
So anyway,
about
that's
this, but it's time for a break.
Yes.
yeah. Okay, great.
So,
Great.
okay.
All right.
We'll be right back.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible, she must be a keeper.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Welcome back to Senior Break. So I have some more questions about the ankle exercises,
Sure.
because it's not just the ankle that for your feet and those bones, but like the Achilles tendon, for an example. Explain to us like why we want to be cautious and make sure that we're stretching our ankles
Right.
before doing a strenuous exercise.
So liken the Achilles tendon to steel cords. They are very fibrous and very strong. It's a very strong tendon. That's why when you hear people who have ruptured their tendon, like a tennis player or a football player, that's why the rehabilitation is so long, especially if you've had to have surgery. My own sister plays tennis, and she had 2 surgeries on her tendon from playing tennis.
Okay.
Injured it twice.
Wow.
Okay. So the reason that the tendon needs to be stretched, especially if you're coming in from the cold, is if you do too much, you can overstretch that tendon right away.
I feel that.
So you want to be able to have flexibility in the tendon. Now remember, that tendon wraps to other bones in our body, the other 208 bones, but that tendon connects up to the knee. So it's kind of like the old, the knee bone's connected to the hip bone. So
Right.
to finish your question is like, sure, that's important, but the most important part that I think is your hip flexors. And as we get older, our hips tend to get frozen. So we do a lot of exercises in the chair and standing that focus on the hip flexors.
Okay.
So that will in turn help us down there when we stand up and do our core exercises to work on the abdomen. That's where it all begins to interrelate.
Okay, so it all, like you said, the knee connects to the hip bone.
Yeah.
It all comes together, and
Exactly.
one piece helps another piece.
So how often do you have to do this? How often would a senior have to do this to get the benefit? Is once a week enough?
Ideally, and very frankly, 3 times a week
Okay.
would be my suggestion.
Okay.
We've tried to do classes 3 times a week, but people just didn't want to come.
Okay.
So there are other forms where one can go to a health club. We can talk about Planet Fitness later if you want. But to continue that same exercise routine, or you can do them at home.
Sure.
Yes.
And I tell everybody, especially the people that have come to my classes, you can do these at home.
Right.
And I send them through my web email little blurbs like, hey, you can do this.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll pick up something off the internet that we did in the class, and they'll kind of remember it, because a lot of times I can talk to them till I'm blue in the face to do this particular exercise. They'll forget.
Sure.
Or they're at home and they had to go to the doctor and they forgot what they were going to do. So I say, look, 3 times a week. You can even do it on a weekend when I'm not teaching, and just so you get enough for 3 times a week, 45 minutes.
Sure.
And so I know that it's hard to do 45 minutes at home, but sometimes I think you need to do that.
Sure.
So does that keeps everything in your body, the 3 times a week, in place? Is that the right thing to say? If you do it 3 times a week, it kind of, the one day that you skip, it'll last when you had. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, you can skip,
Yeah.
but you don't want to let it skip too often.
I mean, it won't tighten up if you skip one
No,
day.
no.
But then you're doing it the next day to keep it all the
Right.
same.
I mean,
Okay.
I always say, anybody have any hula hoops? Remember the old hula hoops?
Right.
Get your hula hoops out and just do that. That'll move your hips.
Yeah.
To just keep moving or walk.
I was going to say.
So,
Yeah. Well, before we move on,
Yeah.
what days are you teaching your class
Okay.
at Addison, and is there a fee to participate?
okay, so there is no fee. I ask for a voluntary contribution of $5 a class. It seems to work. I teach the class Monday and Wednesdays around 10 o'clock.
But not in the summer.
But not in the summer.
Yeah,
We're
okay.
usually off from
We'll
like
start back up
Memorial Day, and we start up maybe after Labor Day. We'll start up again. I try to do like 6 months, take time off at the holidays. I have a text program like see who's coming.
Sure.
But of course, I'm looking for more people to come. I think we
Yes.
need to have like 6 people, and if the more people know about it, the better it is.
Sure.
And there are other classes that Marie has there
yeah.
too
Yeah.
We have lots of
with exercise,
Yeah.
and there's a yoga class, if she can talk about that. But sure, Yeah, that's basically the way I've set it up.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And then, so what about a healthy diet? How does a healthy
Sure.
diet and hydration
Sure.
play a part in exercise?
Sure. So that's part of a holistic approach to your body. I take that to my own body, and I'm the example. If I can't walk it, then I can't talk it. You know what I'm saying? And I try to stay pretty active myself during the summertime, and I bike, and I do all those things that you need to do. But sometimes people don't want to do that. And so the first thing that you need to do is have a conscious incentive to stay healthy. You know,
Okay.
rather than just to sit and be a couch potato. Like, I don't really watch a lot of TV. I mean, I don't sit in a lot. You know, I'm kind of want to keep moving, doing things.
Sure.
So I talk about things called energy givers and energy takers to the class. So let's talk about the energy takers, because these are the things that are easily to fall into.
Right.
Like you just said, not enough water. And that is one of the biggest things that we talk about in the class. So many people just have their coffee and no water. So my suggestion is each day try to consume half your body weight in water. So for me, I usually drink 3 32-ounce bottles of water. I try. I usually hit 2, never hit 3, but I try to get to 3. So, and people go, really? Well, I weigh 135 pounds. That means I have to take 70 ounces. I said, yep, that's kind of recommended. Now,
Right.
it can be water, it could be tea, okay, but no pop drinks. When I drink Coke, no, that's not my suggestion.
Right.
It is still hydration, but
It's different.
But
that's
it's
not
got caffeine in it, so
Correct.
that'll dehydrate you.
correct. So that's the main one. The 2 other energy takers, there are many. The other 2 are unhealthy diet. And so my response to that is try to understand what the Mediterranean diet is. There are many, many diets out there. And now with the onset of Ozempic and all the, I really stay away from that. And I know that it's out there.
Sure, right.
But that's in my mind cheating. But people do take it to lose weight. But unhealthy diet, I kind of recommend the Mediterranean diet, which stresses vegetables, legumes, fish, stay away from red meat. Everybody knows the Mediterranean diet. And I think that's what I would encourage. If you ask me like what kind of diet I'm on a Mediterranean diet. You know, so that keeps me
Okay.
going, you know. And the third thing, which we kind of forget about, is insufficient sleep.
Okay.
We don't get enough sleep. Especially if you're over 65, you should be getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And that's out there, medically proven, scientifically proven. And a lot of us don't do that.
Right. So,
I have friends that stay up till 11 o'clock and they get up early or they don't get enough sleep. That's a whole nother topic,
Right.
okay? But on the other hand, the exercise givers, if I call it,
all right.
are exercise,
Right.
which is what we're here talking about today.
All right, so I'm going to have to stop you right there, and we're going to take a break. But
Sure.
when we come back, we'll talk about the energy givers. So,
Sure.
All right.
Great.
Be right back.
Great.
Hi, I'm Peyton Manning, and I'm partnering with the American Red Cross this year to tackle blood shortages. Giving blood's important because every 2 seconds, someone actually needs blood, and unfortunately, only like 3% of the U.S. population donates. So we have to step up to give and to make sure there's plenty of blood available for those in need. Visit redcrossblood.org to get in the game and make an appointment to give.
Welcome back to Senior Break. Before break, we were talking about the bad energy, the energy takers. Let's talk about the energy givers.
Right, right. So the energy givers, again, back to what we were just talking about, are, first of all, exercise is what we're here for. And I've talked about the structure of my class and how I recommend exercising every day if you can. But a formal exercise class should really take 45 minutes. And some people have treadmills at home. People have all kinds of machines that you can
Yes.
supplement with. I won't comment too much on that because I'm not familiar really with what should be for a home program. But the one thing that we did talk about before is that for seniors involved with a Medicare Advantage plan through their employer or their retirement plan, you can take advantage of a exercise at Planet Fitness, which would be down in Lake Orion. And if you are a member, you register with Silver Sneakers through your Medicare Advantage plan, and you go over to Lake Orion, Planet Fitness, they will accept you, and it's about $150 a year.
Right.
And I know they just raised the rates.
Yes, they did.
It used to be $10, now it's $15. And that's the first time that Planet Fitness has raised their prices in like 8 or 9 years. So that will be covered under your Advantage plan. That's something that I would recommend to do, to try to keep it 3 times a week or even 4. But you don't want to over-exercise either. You want to take a day off. Hydrate, make sure you're doing other things, read, meditate, kind of balance your 7 days of week with body and soul and mind.
Sure.
You know? So the energy givers are, the biggest is to me a healthy diet. And we talked a little bit before about the Mediterranean diet. It doesn't have to be a Mediterranean diet, but try to avoid saturated foods. The biggest effect on bad health is sugar. Just try to stay away from sugar because that causes inflammation. And inflammation is the biggest, really, impediment to a healthy lifestyle. Okay? And then, of course, the third thing, which we talked about before, is hydration and making sure you're having enough water, especially during hot times in the summer, but also in the winter too. That's when people get dehydrated. They don't have enough and they go outside and it's cold and they fall down in the snow.
Sure.
You know, but
So when we're talking about hydration and to be hydrated, should you make sure, if you're taking in half of your body weight every day, and it should then offset your exercise
Sure.
or your activity.
Sure.
But if you're not drinking your half your body weight, and let's say today is an off day for me, but I'm going to exercise tomorrow, or maybe I'm going to go out on my bike tomorrow and the temperatures are warmer, I should make sure that I'm hydrating well and like a day ahead of time and not the morning of.
correct.
Right?
There isn't a day that you should not go without hydrating.
Okay.
Don't skip a day because you're not exercising. Make sure you have your. I really try to do 2 32-ounce water bottles. You know, and I know that if I've gone through those, even if it's at 7 o'clock at night, I feel better.
Right.
I don't get dizzy. I'm not, coherent sometimes. I'll forget things.
Helps you feel a little full too.
Yes.
Right.
know,
I mean,
you're
it
not as
will
hungry.
make you feel good.
Yeah.
And feel full. That's what these new drugs are doing. The Ozempic one, they're just trying to you digest food slower. Well, you can do that by yourself. Just don't eat as much.
Sure.
You don't need all, but that's a whole nother.
Right.
I don't want to get into that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
other energy givers are. First one was like laughing,
Okay.
smile. That's an energy giver. Green tea is good. Listening to music, that's an energy giver. Power naps are great. If you feel you need a power nap in the afternoon, lie down for 20 minutes. If you're working, even if you're working at home on the computer, do a power nap.
Yeah. Okay.
Outdoor activities. And to me, the most important one is love. Make sure you're loving, whether it's to nature, to your spouse, to your grandkids, to your children, whatever.
Yeah.
Those are all the.
Why do seniors not get 7 to 9 hours sleep? I mean, the obvious is there, but what would be, is it because the TV is keeping them up too long, like at 11 o'clock? Or?
I'm not a psychologist, but a lot of the times it's anxiety. Anxiety may be over paying their bills, or they don't have enough money, or, there's a family member who is taking a lot of required time for going to the doctors.
It's worry.
Yeah.
It's worry. I think
Yeah.
that's the big thing that keeps people up at night.
Yeah.
I hit the sack and I go to sleep and I wake up 7 hours later. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I mean, depression, I think,
Depression,
is another one.
there's
If
all
they're
of
not,
these-
If they're not out and being active
Right.
or doing something to take
Right.
care of themselves, I mean, socialization is a big part of that
Correct.
exercise
Sure.
group that you have
Sure.
because they're leaving their homes, they're getting in a vehicle, walking into a building, and gathering.
It's something to look forward to.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
is a biggie.
Right, and when they're there, it's not necessarily all about the exercise, but that socialization, that communication that they have
Sure.
with you or with their
The other seniors.
classmates.
And the first thing that I do to everyone, how you doing, everybody?
Right.
Smile.
Right.
That'll set the tone for the class.
Sure.
If you come in and I'm grumpy, well, we're not going to have a good class.
Right.
So you make sure that the music's right, and it's always the music. Everybody always comments on the music. Well,
Yeah.
I don't really like that, but then we get it to where everybody likes the
Sure.
music. The music really motivates the
Yeah.
class.
Yes.
But you really touched on really what is being alive about and being a senior.
Yeah.
And how do you stay away from the hospital? And the most important thing in my mind, don't fall.
Right,
You don't want to fall.
right.
So.
So for someone that's pretty active like myself, but needs a little bit of help with the nutrition part or the diet part, do you offer that service outside of, I mean, do you work with anybody individually
No, I
to
don't.
help?
No, I
Okay.
don't. I wish I did, but I
Right.
just take it upon myself to use my own self-guidance to make
Right.
sure that I'm doing the things that I preach.
Sure.
And sometimes I don't do that all the time, but I'm going to say 90% of the time I'm practice what I'm preaching.
Right.
And I am the embodiment of that philosophy.
Is
So-
there something that you can say now or just kind of show us that would help teach people about balance? Because I agree with you, that is one of the things that make people,
Sure.
that people fall. They're at the
Sure.
washing machine and they don't think and they just hurry up and turn around.
Sure, and they fall. Sure.
So for me, I tried to tell myself to use my brain to help my balance, think before I move. But is there something they should do that you would
Sure.
know? 'Cause
The
I'm
first
not-
thing that I say to you is you should come to my class.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in regard to that, there are some basic balance exercises that you do with a chair in your home to work on those ankles.
Okay.
We start at the ankles and then we work up to our core. Again, everything's connected. The core, when I define the core is from our chest area down to our hips.
Right.
Those are the core that tie the lower body to the upper body. It's a simple thing. So if our core is weak, then it's hard to do the balance. So I hope
But should they be thinking, I guess that's what I'm thinking, is it good to say, seniors, think before you move? Rather
Yes.
than like what you're saying. I
So-
know the class would be beautiful, perfect, 2 or 3 times a week, but is there something that would remind them to, before you turn around and move really fast, because we're thinking of 3 things that we have to do, is there a little
Maybe
saying
just-
you give, or just
So we
stop
talked
and
about
think?
proprioception or the kinesthesiology. That's what I call, and I simplify that to the class and I say, it's a gyroscope in your brain.
Yes.
So without proprioception, we couldn't turn our head or touch our finger to our nose with our eyes closed. So we need to strengthen that,
Right.
okay? And that is affecting the brain telling what our tendons and muscles are doing.
Sure.
So in answer to that question, sure, with the balance exercises, there are the most important thing that I say, people, lift your feet.
Okay.
Okay.
Do not
That's good.
shuffle.
Okay.
Because what happens when one shuffles, you catch yourself on a rug
Okay.
in your house.
That's a good one. That's a good.
And lift your feet. So again, the brain telling those ankles and these muscles here, our quads, to lift the foot up that much off the ground. If you just keep the foot flat, and a lot of times we're in slippers or bare feet or socks, and socks are like on wood floors, it's like
Slippery, yeah.
it's really slippery. Lift your feet.
Okay, that's
All
a good
right.
one.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Well, this is a lot of great information, Ken. Really
Lots.
appreciate you coming out
Yeah.
today. If you'd like more information about his classes over at Addison Township, Marie, get in contact with
Yep.
Marie. And
Yep.
what's the number?
248-628-3388.
All right. And we'd love to have you back again.
Sure, happy to come back, and
yeah,
thank you for
so-
having me.
Yeah,
really,
well,
really fun.
well,
Fun
all
time.
right.
A lot of good
Okay.
information.
Yeah, so get out and be active. And any questions, feel free to reach out to Marie about Ken's classes.
And we'll probably start up in September again.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We hope to get more people coming.
All right. All right, well, we'll see you next time.
Bye.